So, Mark, I know I stopped you mid rant here because you were just extremely upset with yourself here over some Chad Brown horse today.
No, it's just frustrating. There was a Chad Brown horse at Belmont today that ended up going off at 6-1 or 7-1, some sort of, something like that. And horse was like 5-2 on the morning line. Arad was scheduled to ride. Arad's obviously sick or whatever. And Eric Cancel gets up, and therefore everybody ignores the horse. And had I used that horse in the tournament, because I thought the horse would be 2-1. And had I used the horse, I would have been playing in the $1,000 low vol on Saturday. So, man.
You, yeah, that was tough. I looked at that horse because like I was like looking at it. There's another Chad in that race, wasn't there? That was like much
Yeah.
short. That was shorter priced. Yeah.
No. That wasn't the one with the other
Yeah,
Chad.
that was the
That
only
was a maiden.
Chad.
That was a maiden. There's
Oh,
only one Chad in there.
I was thinking of the other race,
I think.
but I think I don't think either of the Chads won that other race. I don't remember, dude. I was only watching Belmont. I didn't play anything at all. So, but yeah, that's tough, man. You got so close.
It's all right. It happens.
All right. Well, we are on the wrong lead. We are missing our boy Chase today. He just got some more treatment for some pain he's been having. So shout out to Chase. Hopefully we'll have him back next week. I know he's been a little bit more active in the Discord, so he's been posting his sheet and stuff. So if you guys are in Discord, stuff will get posted on there as usual.
I'm gonna say he's also been killing it at Belmont. If you're tailing Chase, he's been doing very well at the Belmont meet. I know he's personally been making doing quite well financially there. So he's offsetting being out of work. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
He had like 4 top pick winners on his sheet, I think, today alone.
Yeah, he had 4 on top, and I know he had a bunch of exactas, a bunch of tries. So his tout business is doing quite well as well.
Yeah. John Massey says hashtag needlework. So yep, he got a little needlework done. But yeah, we're gonna take a look at a couple of the stakes races on Saturday. The calendar was kind of weird. I was kind of looking at the stakes races and trying to see like did we want to just cover Keeneland, but Keeneland's got a bunch of like I think Keeneland the card that when I looked at it had a bunch of like maiden races as part of the pick five, and it didn't really look like a great sequence. And then Belmont has got the short fields, so I couldn't really make a case for just covering Belmont. So I figured we kind of do a combination of the two. Belmont will probably be able to get through pretty quick with some of the short fields, but yeah, I figure we'll just kind of jump into this and just kind of start looking here at Keeneland first. We got race 8, the Fayette. It's grade 2 here for 3-year-olds and up. We're going a mile and the 1/8 on the main track. We got some familiar names here in Mr. Freeze, Tax, Radar Superstar won a big race last year, didn't they? I know it hasn't really been in form, but got some interesting horses in this one. Mark, why don't you take a pass at this one?
I had an absolutely brutal time with this race. I think when I looked at the cards, and I didn't think Josh was alluding to this, looked at the Belmont cards, and the Belmont cards had short fields that were very, very, very competitive. 5 and 6 horse fields where you can make a case for pretty much everybody, but there's some real logicals. This race just felt like one of those ones where you could throw darts and not really be wrong. I wouldn't talk anybody off any horse in this field. And it gets into how do you think the race really sets up and how is the track playing? Obviously Mr. Freeze is going to be the speed in here. He's going to get out. I think he should get fairly loose in here. I don't think anybody's going to want to go with him early. The thing is the distance. Does he want to go this far? He's only 1 for 6 at the distance. He's sort of stops. Is he set himself up more as a miler, and this is a little further than he really wants to go? I don't know, but I think he's going to at least keep the front end honest. JJ is going to try to get him to carry as far as he can. And then the other one is sort of the enigma in here is Tax, who has to me not been seen since May, the 2nd of May. This horse completely missed the whole Derby trail. I never really heard what was wrong or what happened or anything else. He was last seen running okay at Oaklawn in the Oaklawn handicap. got beat by some real solid horses and by my standard, and obviously Mr. Freeze was in here, and then he just disappeared, went on the bench. I don't really know, but he was gone all summer and missed a lot of really good racing. And so I think he's definitely sort of a major player, and he's going to be that horse that kind of sits off and is not necessarily part of the pace, but kind of can sit off from Mr. Freeze. And then after those are the two logicals. Those are the two that sort of jump off the paper at you. After you get past those two, man, there is a lot of horses who you can make a case for in here. And I think, Captivating Moon is an interesting horse. It's going to be coming from way out of it. But again, way off the pace, has not been working on the dirt at Keeneland. Josh is laughing at me. And Julian,
No, that horse just hates winning. Like that, Captivating Moon is a horse I looked really, really close at. But man, that horse just hates to win. That's a or what's your favorite saying, Mark? Hates to get its picture taken. Yeah.
It's getting his photo taken. No, I mean he's 4 for 24 lifetime for a reason. He's 5-1 in the morning line. I wouldn't touch him at that, but there is a price where he's usable. But I don't know if he's a case that hangs or just never quits, gets there, or I don't know, whatever you say whatever it is. I thought Crafty Daddy was a little bit interesting in here. The McPeak horse. I thought you could make a case for even somebody like a Title Ready, who is the horse for course. And I think of the prices, Title Ready is the one that I thought was the most interesting. Albeit Landry is 1 for 20, so on the 1 for 23 or 4 now on the meet, but he got 1 win on the meet so far. So Landry is about as cold as they come right now. But Title Ready is sort of the horse for course and sort of an interesting one that probably has some upside. And also somebody like Aurelius Maximus, who they're taking a class test. But man, if you're gonna take a class test, this seems like the field to take it in. There's no monsters in here. There's nobody that nobody that really loves winning. This is a horse that does like to win. Came out of the Chad barn. Has been 2 for 2 in the Asmussen barn. Figs probably come up a little bit light, but is one that I'm super interested in having involved if I'm playing something like a pick 5.
Yeah, well, I think Mark covered every horse.
Yeah, I think, yeah. So, yeah.
But, yeah, in principle, I kind of agree. I think this race is wide open. I used 4 horses, and I don't know that I'll actually play this race or what I'll play on Saturday. I should probably preface with saying I've been unbelievably bad at Keeneland so far this meet. I usually like Keeneland. I usually do pretty well there. But Keeneland this year, or this meet in particular, has just been baffling to me. So take anything I say and probably bet the opposite. But that being said, I hate Mr. Freeze in this race. I was on Mr. Freeze last time in the Ali Sheba. And I think that's the race where Bodie Express scratched kind of at the gate because he did standard Bodie Express things.
Bodie Express stuff.
Yeah. And, Mr. Freeze was he was looking like he could be Lone Speed anyway. And then he ends up, making the lead just snail fractions. I mean, 25-3 going a mile and a 16th at Churchill. And he folds up like a cheap suit. I mean, he runs dead last, making the lead on those fractions. I mean, just an absolute no excuse, embarrassing effort there. And I don't know if he needs just retired at this point. I mean, he still is a horse, so as opposed to being a gelding, so he may have some stud value somewhere. But to me, that's just a sign of you kind of have to get off him at this point. And at 3-1, I want nothing to do with Mr. Freeze. For me, I did look at, I guess arguably my top pick here would be the 10 Aurelius Maximus. There aren't any monsters in this field, so while he has taken a bit of a class test, he's looked really good in both starts, since the layoff. In the Asmussen barn, he hasn't really beaten any huge horses, but he did beat Bodie Express last out. He beat Chess Chief 2 starts back. So he has beaten some upper level allowance to like grade 3 kind of horses. So he does have some early speed, versatile running style, outside post. The connections have been cold, which is not ideal. Asmussen and Santana have not done well at Keeneland either. But it is a horse that I thought was kind of interesting here. I don't think you'll get 10-1, but if you do, that's a great price, I think, on that horse. And then, I also used the 5 Title Ready Mark touched on. I think he's a really interesting kind of long shot play, horse for course angle. I mean, like we said about the Alashiba, that pace was slow. You're never really going to come from last when you're trying to close into a 25-3 opening quarters. So you do have to overcome the Lannery handicap with this horse, but I could definitely see him hitting the board at a nice price, if not having some upset potential. And then I think the other ones I kind of looked at was the 9 tax. I'm sorry, not the 9, the 8 tax, who I think kind of, was a nice 3-year-old, like we talked about, sort of maybe just went off form a little bit at the back end of his 3-year-old year. Found facing older horses back in January and February, May, a little bit too tough. Gargan generally does well. I mean, he does well when he ships. Gaffleone is an adequate rider, although I don't prefer him as much on the dirt here. But yeah, tax makes sense. I mean, the figs fits and everything fits. I always hesitate to bet these Derby washout horses because they typically get overbet. And this horse probably does need to run back to one of those better races or improve a little bit to win here. But I mean, it's definitely possible.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I covered so many horses just because of the fact that I don't like anybody in here. I guess that's where I should really get to is the fact that this is a race that if I was, playing it vertically or something like that, I wouldn't even know what to do. I mean, because you could box up anybody here and, there's no horse that stands out here. So I covered 6 horses just because I was like, I think I need to go that deep to feel like I would have enough coverage. Not because I like anybody, because I feel like I defensively need to use a bunch of horses. So I don't have a solid opinion. I just feel like those are the kind of horses that could win. And I think you could even make somewhere bit of a case for Miraniqua, the 4, as well as a horse that's quite the long price, but some of those back races in Argentina are decent as well. So it was more of a case of I felt like I needed to use the entire field because I don't like anybody in here, quite honestly.
Did you talk about the 1, Mark?
The 1? No, I don't think you did.
No,
that was my 4th pick, but yeah, go ahead, Josh.
No, I was laughing because, I was looking at this race and I ended up with in my A's and B's, I ended up with 5 horses. And then I think I just stopped because I'm like, I'm just going to like every horse in this race. I only marked 1 horse as a complete toss in this race. And that was Mr. Freeze. So the only horse I'm probably tossing in this race is Mr. Freeze. Mostly on an ability standpoint. I mean, you hate seeing a horse that's 5 years old and all of a sudden is just like, hey, let's just get 4 straight progressively worse efforts. The horse is going the wrong way. And yeah, I guess his Alashiba, if you look on the speed figure alone, is still pretty competitive in this field. But I'm going to look elsewhere, especially at what this might be the favorite in this race, if not second choice. Him and Tax are probably going to be vying for favoritism, I would guess, based on name in this race. I did use a lot of Tax. Tax is one of my 2 A's in this race. I think Tax makes sense here. Like Caleb had said, Gargan is pretty decent shipping. And his stats fit pretty decently here. Gaffleone's 2 for 3 with Gargan this year at Keeneland. So I think Tax makes a lot of sense, speed figure wise. Pace wise, there's not really any burners in this race. I mean, Mr. Freeze is pretty quick out the gate, but we saw what happened last time. He got an easy lead, so I'm not really worried about that. So I definitely see Tax as probably being the most likely winner in this race, but I definitely would not want to take a short price on any horse in this race. My other A in this race is actually a longer price, and that's the horse just outside of Tax, the 9 Mimosa. And so this horse is only 3 years old, facing older for the second time this year. Did beat older at Ellis, back at the end of August. And this is when a 3-year-old should be peaking. And if you look at the speed figures for this horse, I mean, they've he's shown a very plus pattern. So I definitely could see this horse moving forward off that last effort in the Oklahoma Derby. And, that last effort's not that far off of a figure that could win this race. It is a Remy figure, so you do have to question it a little bit because, some of those smaller tracks occasionally, like Finger Lakes, for sure. Like, never believe Finger Lakes figures, even if the horse is going to win going away, as the favorite. Yeah, Mimosa is probably my second choice in this race. And then I get to like kind of like a sea of bees. Of the bees, I think, Caleb, you talked about this horse the most. The 10 Aurelius Maximus, I think, makes the most sense. If you look back to that fairgrounds race, that fairgrounds race wins this race 9 times out of 10. It is, I believe, a bit half a furlong shorter. So, you know, well, the half furlong probably is not going to bother Pioneer of the Nile with AP India in the bottom. I mean, that should be no issue. So, yeah, I could definitely see this horse maybe, coming back to his fairgrounds figure and being real prominent in this race. I mean, you got to figure this horse is going to take money, though, right? I mean, 10-1 for Ricardo Santana Jr., horse that's going to be forward lead, or not on the lead, but is going to be that P type horse. I mean, Steve Asmussen. You think that this horse is going to take a little bit more money? I mean, I guess it depends what people think of Mr. Freeze and Tax. But if you get double digits on the 10, I mean, that's definitely a win bet. I'm guessing we're probably going to get 6-1 or so on this horse, but
I don't honestly know if the 10 takes money, just along the lines of, yeah, it's Stone Street and everything else, and Asmussen with Santana up, and horses on a 2-race win streak, but this is a pretty big class test, and I think people are going to look towards, a Mr. Freeze or Attacks who have been at this level and been beating around, and I think they're more comfortable betting that than a horse that's taken a pretty massive step up from an optional 62. And I think and that's my same issue that I have with the one, your Coastal Defense, who you mentioned really briefly, is a horse that, last out won and looked really impressive doing so, but was controlling speed and is taking another pretty big step up in class again, and won't be controlling speed in here. So, I understand where you're coming from and understand wanting to look towards those two, I like Aurelius, Maximus more, but I don't know if that horse takes a ton of money. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those races where I just don't feel comfortable taking a short price on anybody. Of the two, big names, I would much prefer Tax. Like I said, I'm not using Mr. Freeze at all. I mean, unless Mr. Freeze goes off like, I don't know, like 8-1, then maybe, like, because I mean he could. I mean, I don't even know. Like that last race was so bad. Like I could not emphasize enough how bad that last race was. To the fact that I'm not going to bet a speed horse with like that last effort was just like, oh my god. I still can't believe it.
You realize he's never missed the exact at Keeneland, right?
In 2 times. That's like saying a horse that's run twice is undefeated. Didn't we just talk about this? Wasn't this a discussion we had?
You didn't happen to bet Mr. Freeze last out, did you, Josh?
I absolutely bet Mr. Freeze last out. You want to know why? Because you know who else I liked in that race was Bodie Express. And then Bodie Express scratched, yeah.
Josh, you know who else you're going to end up betting once again on Saturday?
Who?
Mr. Freeze. I guarantee it. I will put money that you will bet Mr. Freeze.
No, dude. I'll ride that. I'll ride that Tax train. I actually, like I said, I really like this 9. I think that this 9 can move forward. And I think if this 9 moves forward, he's right there in there. Maker has just been on a tear. You got Flo the jock aboard. I mean, this is gonna. I think this sets up pretty nicely here. I think that this is I think the 9 is going to be a big player in this, and I think you're going to get a good price on the 9. But the 10, I could probably say the same thing for. So, I mean, give me the 3 outside horses, box them up in an exacta, let's go.
I would probably not be surprised if Aurelius Maximus goes off shorter than Mr. Freeze. We'll see, but I think that last race turned off a lot of people off Mr. Freeze, and I think that Asmussen horse is going to take money. I could see Aurelius Maximus being 5-1, Mr. Freeze being 6-1 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm just like, the thing is that, like, okay, you look at that last race from Aurelius Maximus, and like, it's a regression. I mean, he still won, but I mean that fairgrounds race was a huge number. I don't know. I'm not looking at time form, but I know Brisnet is giving it a huge number. It's a huge number on Bayer. I would assume it's a big number on a big number on time form. And for a 3-year-old or for a 4-year-old, sorry. I mean, this is he's peaking. This should be when he's running his best fig. So I could see him definitely pairing or running close to that last effort. So. All right, let's. Why don't we move on? Why don't we move on to race 9 here? The Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup, mile and the eighth on the turf. Is this this isn't a win you're in, right? No,
I don't know. It might be.
I think this is a win.
I think it is
for
the
3-year-olds. I'm like looking. I'm trying to read. Okay, you do get a silver julep cup, so you got that.
I mean, who needs a Breeders' Cup berth if you get a silver?
Yeah,
julep?
you get the silver julep cup, man. That's all that matters. But it's got one of my favorite horses in this race. The one, Harvey's Little Goyle. I like this horse. It's a cool horse. Yeah, I guess I'll kind of just go through this one real quick. I came up with 3 horses in this race, and I'm gonna have that soft fade going again on a short price horse here. I got that soft fade going on the 2, Sweet Melania. I mean, really didn't have. I didn't think had too much of an excuse in that Lake George. I mean, lost to Selflessly, who we're seeing Selflessly's running in Belmont on Saturday, isn't she? Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I didn't think Sweet Melania had much of an excuse last time out. Sweet Melania has won 3 times out of 8 tries, but I mean we really haven't seen any kind of like big move forward in speed figure wise. Kind of has just sat around that like mid to high 80 buyer, and there's just a lot of horses in this race that have run that or better. So I think that Sweet Melania is going to take a lot of money. 7-2 on the morning line. So this is going to be kind of like a soft fade. Of the short prices, not use the 2. I am going to use the 1, Harvey's Little Goyle, probably going to be my top pick in this race. But you do have to worry a little bit that there's not much pace in this race, besides Sweet Melania. I mean, Sweet Melania and Antoinette will put up a little bit of pace, but I think as long as Harvey's Little Goyle gets up there, and Martin Garcia keeps the horse close, I think that she'll get first run and be in a good spot. I am also going to use the Belmont Oaks Invitational winner, Magic Attitude. Beat absolutely nobody last time out, so I'm not sure what we're going to see, because I mean Antoinette was the best horse in that last race.
Nay Blanche was in there too.
Oh yeah. Antoinette was probably the best horse in that race. Nate, I mean, that was just a really bad race. I don't know. I can't believe that was a grade 1. But I feel like I've said that. How many times have we said that? That this was not a grade 1, like this year. Like how many races have we had? Like, oh, this is not a grade 1 field. Like, I feel like every week we're saying that. Like, this is not a great field for a grade 1. Yeah, and the other horse I'm going to use is going to be the 7, because this horse owes me money, because I was on this horse for the past like 3, or I was on this horse 2 races in a row, and decided to just like make myself look bad, and then finally did not play the Michelin in the Kentucky Downs and won at 10-1, which hurt quite a bit. Yeah, I pretty much am taking some of the shorter prices. I actually think I doubt Michelin goes off at 6-1. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, I'm going to be playing those three horses. I'm not really interested in any of the other horses in this race. I could maybe make a case for if I was trying to be cheap or get brave, maybe singling the 1. But Caleb, I'm interested to hear what you think here.
Yeah, this was another really tough race. I think both of the featured stakes races at Keeneland turned up really tough. I definitely am not against Harvey's Low Oil in this race. She looks like the real deal. I don't know why I get why they tried her on dirt there for a little while, but I definitely think turf's probably the right surface for her. Just got a little bit tired last time out, going that mile and 5/16 at Kentucky Downs. But she makes sense here. Again, though, this kind of feels like a race to me that I don't really want a short-priced horse. So 3-1 on Harvey's Low Oil, who lost to Micheline, whatever her name is, last out. To me, I don't really want to settle for somebody short-priced here. So I think the horse I actually ended up on as my top pick was the 6, Hendy Woods. To me, Sharing is the best 3-year-old turf filly in the country right now, and it's honestly not that close. And Hendy Woods ran a nice second to Sharing that day last out on the Kentucky Oaks undercard in the Edgewood. I don't know that she was ever going to beat Sharing that day. In fact, she probably wasn't, but she did get killed going into that first turn where she had to check pretty abruptly, lost a lot of momentum, kind of shuffled a little bit to the rear, then ended up re-rallying and getting up again for second and was pretty comfortably in second. Was 2.5 lengths clear of the third place horse that day. I just think this is a horse that really only has one bad race to her name. Now, I do think the distance might be a bit of a question here because that forestry on the bottom side of the pedigree definitely leans more towards sprint than it does stamina. And her one bad race did come going 1 1/8. But if you look at the break that day, she was just completely taken out of her game. So I'm not quite ready to say that she can't get the distance yet. I definitely wouldn't want her going 1 1/4 in the Breeders' Cup, but I do think that 1 1/8 could be in her wheelhouse here. So I really liked Hendy Woods here, but at 10-1, I think that's a generous price. I'm kind of with Josh on some of the other horses he talked about. Sweet Melania won't surprise me if she wins here, but she does seem like one of those horses that dominates based on what she did as a 2-year-old, but hasn't really taken that big step forward as a 3-year-old yet. She kind of seems to have just continued running the same quality of races, whereas some of her competition has kind of taken steps forward. And I'm not sure that she really has any edge on this field other than maybe a tactical advantage from having some early speed here. Antoinette, to me, is a total toss. I agree with you that both the Belmont Oaks Invitational and that Del Mar Grade 1, the Del Mar Oaks, I think it was. Were both just embarrassments of Grade 1 stakes. Neither one had anything close to resembling a traditional Grade 1 quality, so I'm not treating them that way. Hendy Woods is probably my pick here. I do want to spread. I looked at a horse like Harvey's Low Oil that I'd use. I also looked at Micheline, who I'm going to use as well. The one horse I couldn't really decide what to do with was Red Lark on the far outside. If you've watched the stream before, you know that I'm not the biggest fan of California turf horses shipping to Keeneland. If you've watched it long enough, you'll know that's also cost me a few times. But that being said, I dismissed this horse completely in the Del Mar Oaks, but she ran a nice race that day. Again, it wasn't a Grade 1 field. It's probably more like a Grade 3 field. But the part that kind of caught my eye was that Drayden Van Dyke flies in to ride this horse, and it's his only mount for the whole day. I'm not a guy that's normally going to be like, this jock rode this horse, and I'm going to bet it purely off of that. But for Drayden to give up a full Saturday, really a full weekend of mounts at Santa Anita to ride one race at Keeneland that's all the way across the country, that kind of makes me take notice. I'm not sure the horse is good enough, but if Drayden thinks that she is, then it is enough for me to at least kind of give her a look at 10-1. She clearly gets the distance. 1 1/8 seems to be kind of where she's best at. And she's one that I find a little bit interesting at a price, but I do think there's a bunch of ways you can go here.
Who was that horse last year that shipped in from Del Mar? It was a turf race. I think it was at Keeneland. It was either Keeneland or Kentucky Downs. Bowie's Hero. Goodness gracious. I'm glad that you had that on the tip of your tongue.
Yeah, you think I forget something like that?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I'm going to sit here and pretty much agree with all the horses you guys have talked about. I'm just going to be much more aggressive behind one of them, and my lone A is going to be Magic Attitude, the 4. She was, that Belmont Oaks had a real slow pace to it. There was not a ton of pace on. She stalked pace, pounced, was super impressive. Got swung 6 wide at the top of the upper. Yeah, I realized she was super short in the day, and she was supposed to win that like she did, but she'll have more pace to run into here. And they've obviously thought quite a lot of her for a long time. She was in the Prix de Dan, which is the French Oaks. So, just to make it into that, they thought quite a bit of her. I would love to know the story of how she ended up in the U.S. If this is something to do with COVID and European racing being a little more shut down, they thought they'd have more opportunities in the States. But Fancy Blue is a very very good filly, and Peaceful is also quite a good filly that she was beaten by in the Diane. So she's pretty darn talented and pretty darn highly regarded. Solid pedigree, and I like her quite a bit in here. And she'll be my lone A in this race. And then I'll be using some of the other ones that you guys have talked about. I think if we get a lot of rain, which they're talking could happen, sort of Friday night into Saturday, in the area, I think that does move Henley's Woods up a little bit. Harvey's Little Goyle makes a lot of sense in there. I think Sweet Melania does as well. Although, the one thing I like about Sweet Melania, and it's going to be a really price dependent thing. She tends to win every other, and this is sort of the other after, after she was beaten up by Selflessly. So, in the Lake George. The other horse that I want in here is Micheline, who was quite impressive. Though I think I bet her about 10 times in a row, and the one time that I don't bet her at Kentucky Downs, she goes off at a stupid price and wins. So of course that's how it works. But I think I'll similar horses to what you guys are playing, but I want a lot more Magic Attitude than you guys are talking.
Yeah, honestly, my only concern with Magic Attitude is I thought that this 1.125 might be too sharp for her. So that's kind of why I'm probably still going to use as an A, but
she is perfect at the distance in a G3. Obviously not as big of money. It's a Prevent 2, which isn't as impressive. It's a May race, so But if you look at her fig, she's done nothing but get better every single start of her career.
I'm just saying, if you got Galileo on top, you probably want more of like 1.25 miles, don't you?
Galileo, anything mile to 1.5 miles, there it hits him square between the eyes. I don't think the 1/8 mile shorter really hurts her. In my eyes, it doesn't move her down. Let's put it that way. Does it move her up? No. I think 1.25 miles would be an even better distance for her, but I think she's still the horse to beat in here.
Yeah, I didn't really touch on that horse. I'm going to use her. It's just tough until I'm just looking at the Brisnet form right now. I haven't sprung for Thoroughgraphs or anything quite yet. But just looking at the Briz, like we said, the Belmont Oaks Invitational was kind of garbage. So I don't know who she beat, but she beat nobody probably the way she's supposed to in a 5-horse field. And doing that in her first start in the States, sometimes they can regress a little bit off of that. I do wonder if this might just be kind of a prep or a tune-up for the Breeders' Cup filly and mare. But either way, I'm hardly going to be against her in this spot. I just don't know that I would want to single her without having some more data personally, which I'll have tomorrow or Saturday.
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking through chat real quick. Dennis Trustee, shout out to Dennis, holding down the fort in. I think he's still working at Churchill, but working at that night shift security. He is on the 4 Magic Attitude. He does like the 6 as well as a price. There's a lot of talk about the 6. John Massey was also mentioning the 6, especially if it comes up a little soft. He's talking about possibility of some weather on Saturday, but
they're talking Friday night into Saturday. So.
Yeah. And then Jody also mentioned the French horses are great on soft turf. Yeah, I would think that would move the 4 up. The 4 has, I don't know. The 4's worst effort was on soft ground, but I doubt we're going to get enough rain that's going to be soft.
Yeah,
right.
But her win at this distance was on good soft, which is like a bog in the U.S. So.
Yeah, plus it's a Group 1. But no, regardless, it's an open race.
Yeah, Yeah, I think that both these Keeneland races are very interesting. We were going to kind of try and talk about the sequence, but I don't know. I mean, they put 3 maiden special weights surrounding this for the pick 5, and there's
Seriously, what are they doing? Like, just like their flags, just like like Keystone flagship days, like Queen Elizabeth Day, and they have like 2 great stakes that are wide open, followed by 3 maiden races. Like, and like the card as the whole kind of sucks. Like the early pick 5 is not good either. I mean, there's cheap claimers and maiden claimers. It is not a good card. I was kind of trying hard to qualify for that Breeders' Cup. I'm sorry, not Breeders' Cup. Keeneland, NHC, BC, whatever.
oh, that $3,000 live tournament on Saturday.
Yeah, I was trying to qualify for that.
How mad would
And
you be if you saw that card?
I'm not glad that I didn't, but I would have been pissed if I did and realized I had to bet 5 of these races for whatever it is, like $400 a pop, because this card sucks. Like, I mean, the 2 stakes races are awesome, but everything around that is not fun.
FYI, Sweet Melania is now an A for me because Bobby loves Sweet Melania. So I've changed my mind. All the bad things I said about Sweet Melania, I take back. I am now on Sweet Melania. Yeah, and I know we've banged the field size drum quite a bit. I mean, I guess it's all right, but I mean, we got a bunch of 5 and 6 horse fields coming up here at Belmont. We're gonna kind of switch over here to Belmont here, look at race 4, the Champagne. I don't know. I mean, I think we could probably get through these races pretty quickly with these field sizes. But
Hey,
Champagne.
Josh,
What's up?
what are you drinking?
Oh, what am I drinking?
Yeah, what are you drinking? I saw you come in with an armful when we started the stream. So
I started with everybody's favorite Scotch, Oban 14. I I've been on a bit of a cold streak, and I was telling Chase, hey, like I'm really struggling. I think I'm gonna switch sauces again. And little did he know that I didn't mean switching back to Brisnet. I meant switching from bourbon to Scotch on the stream. So, yeah, I got a couple. I got 2 Scotches, and I got a Japanese. I got a Nika from the barrel, and I got the Balvenie double wood up here. So, what do you got there, Caleb?
I got a Knob Creek Reserve or Select, I forget. Reserve 9-year barrel proof, and then I got that new Wilderness Trail. Tried it for the first time. That bottled and bond 100 proof. It has a higher percent of rye in the mash bill than normal, and I love a good rye. So I wanted to try that, and it's not bad stuff. It probably needs to age a little more. I think it's like 5 or 6 years. I think in another 2 or 3, it might be really good. But yeah, it's definitely not bad right now.
Yeah, they did one of the stores by me did a bunch of picks of that. I haven't had the heart to just blindly buy a bottle, but and I've also not really been buying anything at that store. But Mark is drinking water, it looks like.
I don't know if you can read it.
I can't read it. It's a Japanese.
Yeah, little Hadazaki. They're little Hadazaki small batch. So it's probably a little more scotchy than some of the Japanese whiskeys, but it's pretty good.
Yeah,
Solid.
I've been slacking, Caleb, because I have all the Scotch. I was going to send you the samples, but I definitely want to send you a sample of this Nika from the barrel. It's interesting because it's like 103 proof, which is super high for a Scotch. And so it's interesting. It's not like super like it's not peated. It's probably peated, but it's not like super smoky or anything. It's really good. I really like it, and it's fairly reasonable. I think I paid like $70 for it, which for Japanese is like if you think Scotch is expensive, it's just like Japanese is just Scotch plus an extra like $15. So
yeah,
when that comes back down to earth on the hype train, I think it'll be worth the purchase. But I think for $70 it's more than reasonable. But
which Nika?
The Nika from the barrel, it's the one that's in the funky
Yeah. All the Nikas are kind of in funky bottles, but yeah, yep.
Yeah, we they're there's been a bunch of different like bourbons and stuff coming out from like all these like small places. But someone had mentioned, and I don't know if you've had this before, Caleb. It's Redemption. They have a high rye bourbon that's supposed to be pretty good, but I haven't had it.
I've seen it, but never had it.
Yeah, they're
I'll look
specifically the
it.
high rye bourbon because they have a regular bourbon, they have a rye, and then they have a high rye bourbon. And I'm pretty sure it's an MGP high rye, which is what Smoke Wagon is. But I think this one is just not as aged as much. So, and I thought you'd like that Smoke Wagon. So that
I
might
actually
be.
don't like Smoke Wagon at all. To be
Oh, you didn't
honest.
like it?
I don't like it. I don't care for it.
Well,
Need some time.
yeah, we'll see. Which one did you get? Which one did you get? The uncut?
Not the uncut, unfiltered.
Oh
yeah.
man, that's the one that people like too. Okay, I got nothing then.
I'm mind over this thing, but
Yeah.
to me, I don't care for it. But anyway,
All right. Well, Caleb, after that disappointment, what do you like in this one?
I hate 2-year-old stakes races.
I do. I know. I saw. That's why I wanted you to go first because I sat here and I was like pouring over this. I'm like, I'm gonna let Caleb go first on this one.
I don't know how you get away from Jackie's Warrior here. Like, I've tried twice, and I'm like, the horse is one-dimensional. He needs the lead. 2-year-old stakes races are recipes for chaos, and it doesn't matter if it's 5, 6, 7 furlongs. This horse just goes to the front and just runs his eyeballs out and wins. I don't see any reason why that'll be different today, really. Speed was really good at Belmont today. Chase mentioned it earlier, but inside speed in particular seemed to be an advantage on the main track. So, like, to me, that is the speed of the speed here. It's going to be a lone A for me. I don't see much reason to talk about it too much. I'll probably have 2 C's in this race. One of them would be the Chad Brown horse, the 5, reinvestment risk. I think this is a nice horse. I was against this horse last time out in the Hopeful. I actually was on Mustabik, the horse who got third, but only because I think reinvestment risk kind of inherited a gold rail at Saratoga in his debut. And, I just kind of didn't want to play again. I didn't want to play him again at even money next out, but I made the wrong call on which 2-year-old I was going to go for. So here, he backed up that gold rail effort to still have a respectable showing. I mean, he was never going to beat Jackie's Warrior that day, but he did have a nice showing. I do kind of think that the mile probably benefits reinvestment risk more than it does Jackie's Warrior. I definitely think the stretch out's going to be a bigger advantage to reinvestment risk, but I'd be more concerned if it was like a mile and a 16th around 2 turns. That's when I would really start to take reinvestment risk more seriously. I mean, I know it's Belmont, so really there's no 2-turn routes for the most part, but I just think 2 turns routes, maybe the Breeders' Cup, reinvestment risk is a horse I'm going to look at. Right here, though, the horse can't be any better than a C for me, just because I still think this is probably on the short side of really what he wants to do. And then the other C that I was going to use is Ambivalent, the 1, mostly because I did see that rail was pretty good today, as Chase mentioned earlier. I don't want to have too much money tied up in trying to beat Jackie's Warrior, who's probably going to be 2 to 5 or something, 3 to 5. And this, but Doug O'Neill has sent some live ones to New York lately. Velasquez takes them out here, so he is getting a reputable rider, even if I'm not his biggest fan. This horse won't be on the lead. It has no chance, but he does at least have a hope to be forwardly placed in this field that kind of comes up surprisingly light on speed for a 2-year-old race. So in the event that Jackie's Warrior just doesn't fire, I could see maybe this 1 being the horse that sort of gets that first run. And I don't know what the line is. I'm assuming you're getting probably 15 to 1 or something like that on this horse.
15 to 1.
15 to 1.
I'm good. But but yeah, so at any rate, that's the only other horse I'd kind of look at here. But I don't really like anything after Jackie's Warrior, to be honest. And if you're playing just 1 small ticket, you absolutely single that horse and you're probably fine.
So, Kayla, or both of you guys, I got a question. Do you guys ever just like handicap a race and then, write down your picks and then wonder what the fuck you were thinking? Because I'm looking at this and I have 1A in this race and it's not the 4 or the 5. So I don't know what I was thinking because I have both the 4 and the 5 as Bs. The only horse I have as an A in this race is the 6. Midnight Bourbon. I know speed figure wise we're looking We're not looking great. We're looking about 15 too short here. So I'm really hoping for a big jump forward. I mean, I have a hard time. I mean, I guess it's a 1-turn mile, so I guess you can forgive McLean's music on that. But McLean's music is like sprinter, right?
Yeah, mostly a sprinters. They can
Mile at most.
mile, but I wouldn't want them any farther than that.
And I mean, I do think that Asmussen's been bringing the horse along, stretching him out slowly, but I don't know. There's some Midnight Bourbon, is going to get Jose Ortiz aboard, and I think he's going to sit. He's going to sit just off the pace. Now, whether or not the horse is fast enough, I don't know. But the 6 did make a bit of sense to me. But I don't know. I don't know if I was just like if I misread the PP, but I mean it'll have to make up about 15 points on the hopeful from Jackie's Warrior. And I feel kind of stupid using 3 horses in this race with a 3 to 5 because that's just inviting the 4 to be 1 to 9 and just run off the screen and me tripling my ticket. But I do like the 6 a bit. Maybe it's more of an underneath play to go with the 4. But the 6 has run at a mile 3 times, so does have a little bit of experience at the distance. But I like the 6 here. I mean, if you're like the 6 will probably be something like I'll use in the tournament or something like that. But yeah, I have a hard time getting past the 4 and probably the 5 as a second choice there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to spend too much time here. I very much like Caleb. Jackie's Warrior, to me, is a lone A. I think the horse gets the same exact trip as the Hopeful. Mile is as far as I want this one going. There's eventually going to be a distance limitation with McLean's music, but we haven't found it yet, and every race has been, quite honestly, better than the last. Took care of reinvestment risk. I think Jackie's Warrior gets out, gets loose. Reinvestment risk and Midnight Bourbon are second, third. So I have Jackie's Warrior as my A, reinvestment risk as a B, and Midnight Bourbon as a C. I didn't want anybody else in there, and that's assuming I'm playing something like a pick 5. If I was playing a pick 3, I'm just going to single Jackie's Warrior and call it a day. That's it.
Let's take I know there was some discussion in chat here. Bobby Mark's talking about leg kick. Make sure you get those stretches in. Road Warrior mentioning speed was really good today.
Yeah, I would say speed was good. You wanted to be forwardly placed. Horses that were coming back from more than, say, 3 or 4 lengths off on the dirt just didn't have a chance. But I don't think it wasn't a situation where it was a railroad track or whatever, conveyor belt, whatever you want to call it. You weren't seeing those front running speeds really holding, with the exception of a couple races. You were seeing it being fair. It wasn't like a 20 to 1 was getting loose on the front end and then just carrying forever. So you saw some real nice aggressive rides as well be rewarded for jocks being aggressive, which is something I love seeing when a bug gets up and gets told go and goes and holds on late. That's it's nice to see these sort of, I don't know, limp-wristed Naira Jackie County getting punished for being
limp-wristed.
Wow. So passive.
We had our first Joey bomb of the night, or second Joey bomb of the night.
Second Joey bomb, and we had 2. Was it Gabriel Corral? What's it?
Cardenas, dude.
Cardenas.
Oh, Luis Cardenas, yeah.
Sorry, Luis Cardenas.
On the turf today,
dude. He was phenomenal on the turf today, man. Kids figuring it out.
I bet Joey, I think twice today, and I think he lost both of them. There was he was on a 12 that I really liked, and he just
I was on that 12 too,
yeah, that was tough. Yeah, so is Irad still going to be suspended this weekend, or is he going to be back?
He's back tomorrow.
Okay. Mark, Irad choosing to ride the Chad as opposed to Steve's horse that looks to be better on paper, don't really care?
He's never been...
I misread the PP because I'm an idiot. Let's move on.
It's okay. It's easy to mix up Allison Ortiz.
Dude, I don't know what... Dude, I'm telling you, man. Like, I'm looking at this race, and I'm all messed up. Like, did I mark the 6 as an accident? But no, I do kind of like the 6. Let's get the heck out of here. Let's move on to the Frisette. What the heck am I looking at, man? Oh, I already was on the Frisette. See?
After bashing the Keeneland card, I do want to say the field sizes aren't great, but the Belmont card's nice. It's a pretty solid card, all things considered.
Hey Josh, I need some help before we get started in this race. Could you pronounce the race that the 5 is coming out of for me?
No, the Schluterville.
Yes, perfect. Well done,
Yeah,
Josh.
right. That's probably not right. How do you pronounce it?
Schuylerville.
Schuylerville. It looks like Schluter.
Yeah, I
The
would not have
hell.
said Scarville either. Don't feel bad.
Mark's just happy he can finally get one on us. About pronouncing something. So, anyways, let's move on to the Frizette. This is another one of Caleb's favorite races. It's a 2-year-old filly stakes, going a mile on the main track. And there's not a ton of form in this race. Uh, I mean, we got a couple of just like maiden winners coming out of it, and then a couple of stakes races. But yeah, but Mark, what do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. It's not a race where you have as much form, or this is obviously the Philly division of the previous the Colts in the previous race, and you don't have as much form. I had liked Vaquist, the Park Shipper, last out, and we've been talking about that horse in that race, and I had mentioned that with these 2-year-old type races, it seems like either the favorite wins or an absolute bomb wins, and on that day, I think the horse was 12-1 or 13-1, something like that, but in like a 5-horse field. But I mean, I think the pace setup in here becomes a little interesting. Viquist has shown that she can pass horses, which is something I definitely like in this field. And I think the other one that is super interesting is coming out of the Schuylerville, which is Day Out of the Office, the 5, another horse that's shown can pass other horses. I mean, on speed figs, the two of them kind of jump off the page at you. Other two horses I thought were interesting were Quintana, the Steve Asmussen horse that Stone Street paid 950,000 for. Obviously had some good intentions on that one, and seems like a horse that could move forward. One is maiden by 10 1/4 geared down at Saratoga at first asking. So I don't really know what was speeding that day, but you know has every right to take a step forward as well. And then the other one I thought in here that was a little interesting was Joy's Rocket, who's coming out of the Bolton Landing. Um, and they're going moving this one back to the dirt, which is sort of an interesting move. I don't know if that's what she wants, but she's another one of those that's going to be part of this sort of contested pace duel. But honestly, I think you can make a case for pretty much everyone in here. And if I was playing horizontals, I'm probably going to buy the rest of this field. Maybe not the Doug O'Neill horse, but with the exception of that one, I think everyone in here really has a pretty logical shot to win.
Mark putting the Doug O'Neill horse into the
In the winner,
winner's circle on
I
this one.
say on that.
Yeah, I had a hard time with this one. I don't know. I want to bet against this one really bad. And the horse I like the best out of the other ones apparently is shorter on the morning line, which is the 2 Cantata. 2-1 for the 1, and the Cantata is 9-5 on the morning line. Which, yeah, I was kind of surprised, but the big thing I will give Cantata, and I mean, yes, Vaquista passed a horse, but Cantata, started off a little bit slow in that sprint, and came from 3 lengths off, made up a little bit of ground. In these 2-year-old stakes races, I tend to look at those horses that have actually passed other horses. So horses like the 5, I would move up. And horses like the 2. I also kind of like the 7 horse a little bit. Fifth Risk. Now I know once again we're looking speed figure wise is going to be up against it quite a bit. But once again, I'm just kind of looking at it. Coming a little bit from off the pace. You kind of got the, I guess, almost like a baby little Z pattern there, going 2-3-2-1. So I'll have to go back and watch it, but this is another one that I don't think is gonna go straight to the lead. I think that probably the 1 with Luis Saez aboard is gonna go ahead and try and get grab the early lead here. But yeah, like I'm kind of between the 2, the 5, and the 7 here, but the 7 is probably more like a C, B or C play. But I'm gonna have a soft fade on this one and go mostly through the 2 and the 5 here.
Yeah, I'm common with most, or at least most of Mark's picks and a couple of Josh's. That I think it kills me to use 3 horses in a 7-horse field. But I don't think there's anybody that you can really just like hitch your wagon to and trust as a single or anything like that. So to me, I'm using the 1 Vaquist pretty heavily. That was a nice race in the spin-away. I can't get too excited about it because I think that someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure there was the Mark Cassey horse that pulled up that day that was like even money or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's something mischief horse. I think I forget the name, making mischief or something like that.
Yep.
I think so. Like, yeah, that definitely plays a role, but nevertheless, this Vequist horse won by 9 lengths, and the show horse Lady Lily came back to win again at next asking. So I think that horse demands respect. I really like Luis Saez. I don't ever have to worry about what kind of ride I'm going to get when Saez is on a horse. He's going to send it. It's going to be forwardly placed. I don't have to worry about any, choke jobs or anything like that. He's going to put this horse where it needs to be, especially from the rail. I do like Cantata a lot, the 2. This horse passed horses like Josh alluded to, which is always a big deal, and just kind of destroyed that field at Saratoga. It also comes in, kind of boasting a work pattern that I always like to see for Asmussen horses, which is typically a 4 or 5 furlong workout that shades about 12 seconds per furlong, that minute and 3 work on September 27th, and then comes back with a 3 or 4 long maintenance breeze, 3 to 4 furlong maintenance breeze, excuse me. So, kind of what happened on October 4th was just that maintenance, one last gallop before the race. This horse seems like the real deal. They paid enough money for her. They clearly have some expectations here. So I do like her as well. And then Day at the Office, like we talked about, has done nothing wrong in her career. Has 2 victories by a combined 11 lengths, pretty much. She did upset that grade 3 that I'm not going to pronounce at 20-1. So that's always one of those races where it's a little bit of a head scratcher. Like, you don't often see 6-length winners go off at 20-1, but the fact that she did it twice now, both at Gulfstream and at Saratoga, tends to suggest to me that this horse is kind of legit. I do think that this horse has talent. This is only a mile, so I'm not too concerned about distance yet. And John Massey, thank you. Schuylerville. I need the phonetic typing in the chat. And so those are the 3 horses I'm going to use. I don't like Fifth Risk. It was a 4-horse field, and she was life or death to get up for half a length in a not very good field that day. The 6 just seems way too slow, and the 4 horse is the one I'm probably going to be against that could bite me. I don't know that I would call it like a bold fade. I'm assuming that horse is probably no better than 3rd or 4th pick here, but might be your leader given that 5.5 furlong turf sprint speed. But I just tend to think that Rosario probably had choice of his Asmussen horses here, as he typically does kind of get that second call for Asmussen when Santana's not riding. And to see him end up on the 2, not that Jose's a bad jock by any stretch, but kind of like implies to me that more than likely the 2's the horse you want out of the Asmussen barn here. But it'll be something to see. Depending on the odds, if that 4 ends up going off at 5-1, she becomes very playable. But I just don't know what the prices are going to shake out.
Yeah, and I do need to apologize. I meant the Day Out of the Office was the Schuylerville, not I said the 1, and I meant the 5.
Yeah, beautiful memories in both the Schuylerville and the Spinaway was
twice.
Yeah, and was in both of them, and pulled up in the Schuylerville and 6th by 58 lengths in the Spinaway at as the favorite at 1-2 and even money, respectively.
Ended up running in the Schuylerville and was second to Day Out of the Office, and I think that's the one that Caleb had mentioned. So 2-year-olds get all confusing, and yeah.
Yeah, and I'm kind of just looking at I'm looking at the chart for the spin away here. Um, we did have a couple of winners come out of that race next out, but they didn't really do much. I mean, the 61 and the 63 buyer respectively. So they won against much softer competition. And even Esplande, the second place finisher, got a very weak buyer in that race. So, but the quiz did win by 9.5 lengths. So that makes sense. All right, let's kind of skip ahead. Let's take a look at John saying that the horse didn't break well and it's been away at all, and Evil Bob Dole's making fun of us saying that we were gonna knock this out quick and we're still on this. Yeah. Hey, we're doing 7 races today, so we still got what, half hour to get through 3 races. I think we can do it.
But I will say, I don't know if we have enough time or if we want to go back, but those 2 maiden special weight races between the early graded stakes and the late graded stakes are amazingly stacked fields. There are some very cool races. So it was some very interesting horses. So
Belmont.
Yep. Yeah, there's some a couple of 7-figure purchase price horses in there that are very highly touted. So
It's also a mandatory pick 6 payout Saturday, which I just realized when I read the Discord. So that'll be fun.
All right, so in the Pick Your Chad Stakes here, the Grade 1 Flower Bowl, we got a mile and a quarter, 3-year-olds and up fillies here, and Chad's coming with some big horses here. I got 2 of the Chads in this race. I got the 2 in the 6. My sister Nat, lost the Civil Union last time out. I don't know if it was just to add a distance or what happened, but the Waya 2 back when she beat Mississippi by a neck, it was pretty impressive. And the horse has been first or second in the last 4 races, so I think my sister Nat will probably take a bit of money here. I'm actually gonna have once again another soft fade here on the 1 Cambier Park. Did not exactly impress me much that last time out in the Canadian. Finished second by a solid 4 lengths, and is gonna get a little bit more ground, which I don't know for Migdalia d'Oro really wants to go, mile and a quarter. I mean, I guess mile and a quarter is fine, but I'm not really in love with Cambier Park, and Cambier Park looks to be the morning line favorite here. And Nay Lady Nay might be my top choice here. I think I'd said, I don't know if I said this before the stream, but Nay Lady Nay looks like that fake Chad, with that Parks, Monmouth, and Laurel form. But I think this is going to be my top pick here, the other Chad. Irad gets a board for this horse. Has never I don't think he's ever ridden this horse, but just kind of like the form pattern that I'm seeing. The Mint Julep was fairly disappointing, but came right back with two wins and with progressively better speed figures. So I think I'm going to lean most heavily on the 2 and the 6 here. Kind of have that soft fade on the 1, and I'll let you guys talk about the other horses in this race.
Yeah, I think Josh hit 2 of the major players in here. I think for me, Lady Lay is Nay Lady Nay. Is one of my 2 A's that I want to have in this race. Horse loves getting her photo taken. She just likes to win. It's going to be forwardly placed in here, sitting just off Cambier Park. She'll be able to take over top of the stretch, and hopefully she's good enough. Obviously getting class test here, stepping up in the ranks, but she's shown herself to be really good. And on a figure standpoint, she really fits here, and she get a nice setup. I think she gets a little lost on the board here of the Chads, and she's one that I find super interesting. A Rad's up on this one. I don't know if I necessarily means anything to me, but obviously Jose had choice and decided to stay on My Sister Nat. And JP had been up in Cambria Park before. I think Cambria Park in here is probably the setup horse, and I just don't think she's shown form this year. She's one of those horses that never really progressed from 3 to 4 years old, and I just they shipped her to to run on the Canadian up at Woodbine, and just I don't know. They were trying to find softer spots for her. I really honestly think she's probably a pace setup horse in here. I don't want to say I think Chad puts all his horses in with the intent if they have a good day they win, but I think this one is probably in here to make sure that the pace is honest. And the other horse I'm really interested in as an A is not a Chad. I really like the 4-lit Lussignar in here. If you're time form user, she's actually your fastest horse in the race. She's had Santana up her last 3 starts. And I don't want to bash a jock or anything, but Santana's not notorious for being a good turf jock. Let's put it that way. He's actually a pretty abysmal turf jock. Getting Manny here, I think that's definitely an upgrade. And this horse, she's done real well at Belmont. And I think on figs, she makes a lot of sense here. She's going to get lost on the board. You're going to get a fair price. I think you're going to get every part of that 8-1 unless there's a bunch of scratches in here. And I think she's super interesting. So she was the other A that I wanted.
Yeah, I guess I'm the only one that kind of likes Cambria Park here is the one. I'm assuming she's your favorite. What is she in the ballpark of 2-1?
5-2.
5-2. Okay. So, I mean, to me, she's just the horse that is probably the most proven. Multiple Grade 1 winner. I mean, you say she hasn't really developed as a 4-year-old, but she's really only had one start as 4-year-old, and it was off of a 11-month layoff. So I don't want to be too hard on her for that. She kind of looked like a horse that just needed a race that day, and I think that was right around the Woodbine big weekend when they had all their graded stakes races for 3-year-olds. So, I mean, I do like her here. Now, the fact that she hasn't raced at all from October until September of her, 3 to 4-year-old season does make me concerned. Like, what is going on with this horse, and why would they make her comeback race at Woodbine of all places? That does make me think Mark's probably right. They're looking for a soft spot. So that doesn't make me feel great. Which is why I'm not going to lean on her too heavily. But she is the Chad I like the best here. My Sister Nat, I'm not interested in this horse. She can win, but she's more likely to run second. The one time she did get a win, it was against a pretty sorry field in the Waya. Mississippi is not nearly as good as people at one time thought that she was. I'm just not that interested in My Sister Nat here. But I'm significantly less interested in the fake Chad Brown, which is the 6-horse Nay Lady Nay. I've told people on and on again, you just can't bet these Chad Browns that come in with good figures out of mid-Atlantic tracks. This horse loves to win, but her wins have come at Monmouth, Parks, Churchill in November, which was not a Breeders' Cup weekend, Monmouth, and Laurel. That's just a horse that I'm going to let beat me every time. So I'm not interested in that horse either. So for me, in addition to Cambria Park, the horses I did like was the 4, as Mark brought up. I do think La Signare is really interesting here. I think that there's no Rushing Falls, Jolie Olympicas, Newspaper of Records, or Beau Recalls in this race. So I do think that she objectively gets a little bit of class relief, even though this is a Grade 1 technically. I do think that she just will get lost on the board. You'll get a nice price. You're probably getting a jockey upgrade, considering that it's turf. And she seems like one that's going to get really moved up by the 1.25 mile distance. I mean, if you look at that pedigree, she wants to run, and she wants to run for a while. She probably wasn't ready to handle 1.25 miles as a 3-year-old way back in July of 2018, but it does seem like a distance that she should be suited for. She had a nice race, going 1 mile and 3/16 back at Gulfstream 4 or 5 starts back. And to me, I do think she's a horse that makes a lot of sense here. And the other one I'm going to use is Civil Union, the 3. I don't love this horse. I do think the River Memory Stakes and the Glen Falls both came up pretty bad. But she is coming in on a 3-race win streak. You do get some really strong connections with Rosario and McGahee. I mean, they're 50% the last 60 days. The horse loves Belmont 2 for 2, and the horse just likes to win. Proven at the distance here, getting the win going 1.25 miles and 1 3/8 and 1.5 miles. So there really isn't anything to knock about this horse other than the fact that the speed figs have just consistently come back a little bit low. But to me, this is a horse that might just be getting good at the right time, and clearly had some soundness issues as she had some trouble staying on the racetrack. But I do think this is one who may be finally healthy and in form, and she's one that I'm interested in here. I don't know what I actually have no idea what price she is. I'm guessing like 4-1,
3-1.
3-1. Okay, I was hoping for a little more, and I do think you'll get a little more with 3 Chads entered. But yeah, that's the other horse I'll probably be using.
You know, I guess one horse that I was interested in, and I'm kind of interested to hear what your guys' thoughts are. What do you guys think of the 5, Bo Bell? Has been on the lead against a lot of these horses. Last time out did grab the lead. You're going to get Sai as a board, who I think is going to ride this horse a little bit more aggressively. I mean, what's the chance that this horse, gets to the lead in front of like a Cambier Park or a Nay Lady Nay here, and maybe puts them to sleep a little bit? There's not really that much speed signed up in here.
Yeah.
Opening half mile for that last race?
53.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah.
When going 53, then you just can't win. And this horse is 2 for 23. I mean,
yeah, but it was 1 mile 3/8 though too. We're cutting back a little bit.
Yeah, but she's coming out of a lot of stuff that's longer, and quite honestly, if you look at where she's made she's only really made the lead in the Glens Falls, and she stopped at 1 mile 3/8. Okay, maybe she wants a little shorter, but she went 53 and couldn't get it done. Like, no, I just no way. She's not gonna be able to get the lead in here, and she's not gonna be able to. And if she somehow gets sent and does get the lead, she's not gonna be able to get the lead and go 53, which is probably how slow she needs to go to have him win. I just don't see a pace setup where where she can win this race. And I think the other horse that, and I don't know if you want to talk about her more or not, Josh, but the other one in here that's going to be a short price that I don't like at all is My Sister Nat. Was a horse that I had really, really, really liked, when she first came over to the States. And I should have known Chad dropping in all those optionals and trying to get that first win in the States that, it wasn't quite all it was made to be. But if you watched Belmont today, horses were not coming from 6-8 lengths out of it and winning on the turf. We're not expecting any weather before Saturday, and I just see no way that, her out of the clouds run style is going to be able to get it done here, and she's going to take a lot of money. I don't want to call her a takeout reducer, but I think with how the track's been playing, she probably is.
Apparently, there's a lot of Manny Franco talk in chat now.
No, I agree with what Josh texted about Manny. He's one of those jocks that you're like, wait, he's only a 10% jock? How? Like, it always seems like he's involved. You've seen him put some real heady rides on. I think he does ride a lot of junk horses because he's one of those Naira guys that, he gets him out in every race. No, I think he's a legit jock, and I think on turf he's definitely an upgrade from Santana.
Well, I'd rather have Manny Franco aboard a horse than like Jose Lascano, so...
I would probably disagree on that, but I do think that there was a comment I think Jody made about Manny on the turf. And normally I don't like Manny on the turf, but he's been solid on the weeds so far this year. I mean, all year pretty much. I mean, he's not a Rosario. He's not a 25% guy, but he's moved up a few horses. He's had some nice runs. So he's no longer a jockey I'm going to look at on a turf race and be like, even though his numbers don't necessarily back it up, it feels like anecdotally he's been giving rides that he would be happy with. It's just the horses may not be good enough.
Look, I'm just saying, what do you think Jose Lascano's win percentage is when he's not riding for Linda?
Oh, I don't know. 10%, 12%.
And we already know that Linda is, she's putting that money under the table to make sure her horses are in good spots. So. All right, let's move on to the most exciting race of the day, as you can tell by my excitement. The Jockey Club Gold Cup. Like, how sad is it that they couldn't find any other horses for this damn race?
I feel like this race if it won't, it at least should be downgraded to a grade 2 next year. It's not a grade 1 race anymore.
And that's really
2 years in a row. It has not been good. I mean, it was a great with Code of Honor and Vino Rosso, but once again, it was a 5-horse field and just not a good race. It's not a grade 1.
I can remember back in the day when Blame won this, and that year it was a stellar race. And I mean, this has historically been a very good race and an extremely productive Breeders' Cup prep. And the last few years, it just has not drawn the fields. I don't know what the problem is. I don't know if it's the people running longer layoffs. I don't know if it's the small purse size. People are going to run other places, but it's frustrating.
So I got a beef with Formulator here. Why does Formulator like suck for jockey stats? Why is it so good for everything else, but I can't find the jockey stats I'm looking at? That's frustrating.
That's what jockey stats you're looking for.
Because I was trying to find. Jody was saying look at the stats in the last 5 years, so I was going to try and compare Franco and Lascano on the turf over the past 5 years, but apparently I can't do that with Formulator.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, I know. I think that maybe we got. Hold on. A little side note here. Let's scroll up. Lascano is 16%. Really? 16% on the turf?
Yeah, he's a good. He's one of those guys that I love to use him because his horses get lost because people think how Josh is that he's not that good unless he's riding for Lindy, it doesn't matter, and he's a very legitimately good turf jock.
He's 0% with Tom Albatrani. Sure, he's 0 for 1, but he's 0%. That's good enough for me.
It's just like Mark's perfect the distance.
Yeah, I didn't realize, man, Manny's only 8% on the turf. That's wild, man. Wild. Anyways, back to this very disappointing grade 1 race here. I mean, Tacitus looks to be looming large here. But I don't know. I don't think I can get there. I mean,
it's Tacitus.
It's Tacitus. I mean,
and invent some new way of losing a race. He'll get scared at the gate, or he'll, I don't know, do like 3-4 circles out of it. I mean, he's going to do something stupid and lose the race.
And then like look at the Suburban he won. Like probably a worse field than this race in the Suburban, where he beat Moretti and who else did he beat in that race? I don't even remember.
He had absolutely no excuse not winning the Woodward. I mean, he was very short priced. Everything went his way, and he just couldn't get it done in the lane. He's just a horse that just I don't know if he's a head case, if he's not that good, if he's historically overrated, but he's just I don't know what it is. He's going to be even money, and you're going to either bet him and he loses and you feel like an idiot for betting Tacitus once again, or you completely fade him and he wins and you feel like, oh, well, that was obvious. It's just, there's no win with this horse. Like as a player.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Josh.
I mean, dude, I can't bet this horse. Like I put this horse down as an A, and I was just like not feeling great about it. I mean, I guess my top pick in this race is going to be the 5 Mystic Guide. I mean, and even that, like, I'm like, I don't even really know. I'm looking for this horse to move forward off his Jim Dandy effort. And he came off the pace. I mean, it wasn't a really hot pace. It was only 47. Was at 47-3 at the half. So wasn't a super hot pace. We are going to be going a little bit further. Ghost Sapper, 1.25 miles. I mean, that should be all right. I don't know. I'm always unsure about distance on Ghost Sappers. I thought it's more of a sprinter, but I don't think he's really had much of an issue going longer. Let's take a look. Dirt route. Yeah, 19%. He's fine. So I think that's my top pick. Like Happy Saver is 2-1 on the morning line, and I mean there's not really that big of a difference between him and the 5, and I think I'm just gonna get a better price on the 5. So the 5 is gonna be my play based, I guess, kind of on value, but like I just don't really feel great playing any horses in this race. I mean, this is not a race I want to bet.
So, Josh, there's a lone speed horse in here, and you are not all over the lone speed horse. You just kind of talk shit about him?
Yep, the 1? Absolutely.
Okay, cool. No, I think to me, Happy Saver and Tacitus are your two A's. I prefer Happy Saver quite a lot more because I think there's less downside of the Tacitus head caseness. I think this is an improving horse. It's one of those 3-year-olds that's getting better towards the end of the season. Has a great pedigree for this type of a distance. This is probably what he wants to be doing. And every race he's ever run, he's really hasn't had to work that hard. I mean, his maiden was geared down. He was geared down that allowance, and they sent him down to, I don't even know what that Laurel race is because it's abbreviated in my form. But and he didn't really have to work that hard here. And his fix fit out of those last 2 races. I think he's the horse to beat here. Pletcher with an improving late season, 3-year-old type. They're probably using this as a pointer for the Breeders' Cup Classic and taking that sort of a, Arrogate style, Arrogate style path to that race. And I'm not saying he's going to be Arrogate, but I'm saying that I think he's much the horse to beat here because I think of anyone in here, he has the most upside.
I'll tell you right now that those figs are juiced. I'm looking at that was the same. The Federico Tessio was the same race that Mexican Wonder Boy came out of, and he ran today, right? Didn't he lose? Was that Keen? Oh, it might have been Keeneland that he ran in, and I bet him, and he fucking lost that first race. I think at Keeneland.
He was in the race, he didn't even hit the board.
Yeah. This race is terrible. And the only silver lining is that it's only 5 horses, and if I end up playing anything, I'm going to buy it, which means I'll probably get Tacitus at even money or something. But Tacitus is that horse that if you single him and he loses, you feel like an idiot, just like Mark said. And if you use 3 horses, but you don't use Tacitus and he wins, you still feel like an idiot. So there's just no winning with him. He's the horse you have to have, but you can't feel good about having. I do like Happy Saver. Like, the connection skipped the Preakness to come here. And honestly, I have no idea what that means to me. Like, this is probably an easier spot to cash a check and get some grade 1 placed or grade 1 show kind of stallion, prospects here. I don't know. I mean, the horse is 3 for 3, but he's going from a listed stakes at Laurel to a grade 1 at Belmont, traveling an extra, furlong than he's ever gone before. So, and facing older horses. So I don't really know what to do with Happy Saver. He should have a pace advantage, but I know Monday Morning QB ran back, I think on the turf actually at Keeneland. I don't know how he ran that race, but otherwise, like, looking at the horses Happy Saver has beaten, I don't recognize any of the names. So I don't really know what to think of Happy Saver, but I'm not going to let him beat me is probably what I do know. Tacitus, like, we already covered him. He's the most logical horse to run second in this race, and just a question of does he actually win or not. Mystic Guide is the one that I know Josh and Mark like, that I just don't think this horse is very good. I've never been very impressed with this horse. Like, he lost a Tap It to Win, Country Grammar. Like, those are okay 3-year-olds, but now he stretches out, faces older, while he still really can't get it done against his own age group. I'm just not really sure this horse is ready for a grade 1 against older horses here. He kind of has a grindy run style. It's not really a explosive turn of foot. He just kind of keeps coming at you. So to me, I'm not really excited in this horse. Of the 3-year-olds, I would prefer Happy Saver. The one horse that I am kind of interested in is actually, I think, the one we haven't talked about yet, which is the 2 Prioritize. This is a horse that not that long ago was in for a $35,000 tag, but has continued to get better. They thought this was a turf horse for a while, and he was kind of okay on the turf. James Bond finally switched him over to the dirt, and it seems to have paid off as he has ran better since being switched onto the dirt. He's never been worse than 3rd in his 5 dirt starts, including that last time out in the grade 1 Woodward at Saratoga, going this distance. If you watch that race, it was kind of dominated on the front end. Global Campaign, a horse that everyone probably knows is near and dear to my heart, is he kind of got away with murder, going 48-4 for the opening half. And for grade 1 older horses, going 1.25 miles, 48-4 is not that fast. So it was always going to be tough to close running into those fractions. This horse kind of lost contact with the field a little bit. He didn't really lose a numerical position as he always stayed fourth, but he was only 2 lengths back at the first call, and he dropped back about 5 lengths as Tacitus moved up to pressure Global Campaign. They kind of opened up on the field, and then the rest of the field, including Prioritize, kind of made up some ground late in the stretch. I'm not going to say he was up against a speed bias or anything there. And once again, it does seem like there's a bit of a soft pace, but I think the jockey change to Saez would be really good for this horse. It's going to help get him involved a little earlier, help keep him engaged and get into the racing flow a little more and not really lose contact with the field like he did last time. So it's really just a race that I'm probably going to buy, like I said, but if I had to probably use one horse, I guess it would be Happy Saver. But I'm probably also going to use Prioritize and Tacitus very strongly. The 3 horse is probably the only horse that I think truly can't win this race. Name Changer seems kind of in over his head here. But yeah, anyone else wouldn't totally surprise me in a pretty interesting race.
Yeah, I would say about Prioritize. I would really be interested to see what the sheets gave him for a fig on that last race, because it looked like Cancel was trying to pick up a hot dog on the first corner.
Yeah.
Floated so wide, and that's the reason you see that wonky running line. Oh, he was 4th by 2 and then by 7. Well, that's because he floated him about 5 wide around the first corner for some reason. Really bizarre, odd trip. And if you figure he only lost by 3 lengths and he ran the first corner in the 5 path, if he'd been in the 2 path, he's effectively with the leaders at the finish. So and I agree with you, Caleb, actually. I prefer Prioritize over Mystic Guide. Mystic Guide I wasn't really super high on, and I think he just sort of lucked into a really soft field in the Jim Dandy. I mean, the Jim Dandy was on Derby weekend and ended up being an extremely soft field. Like Jesus's team was 3rd in there, who's come back and did nothing. Finished last by a million miles. In the Preakness. So I think I can make a case for Prioritize. This all becomes, how do you want to play it? I think for me, probably I can't make Tacitus an A. I just can't do it. So I think Happy Saver becomes my low in A, and then probably Prioritize is a B that I'm interested in, and then Tacitus is sort of the B that I defensively feel I need to have in there someplace.
I hate to contradict my own argument, but Jesus' team actually ran 3rd in the Preakness. Live Your Beast ran and last by a million, who beat Jesus' team in that common race. So your point stands. You just picked the wrong horse.
Okay, wrong horse. I knew one of the horses came back and ran really badly. I know. Yeah, that's right. Chase was really high in Jesus' team. That's right. And I flipped the 2. Sorry.
No, you're good.
All right, I think we spent we put that one into the ground. So let's try and get to this last race here. Although I do love Jody calling this the worst grade 1 she has ever seen, or he has ever seen. Jody with an I is a she, I think, but I don't want to be.
He or she.
Yeah, I don't want to be wrong. So we'll say they say that the worst grade 1 they've ever seen. Yeah, let's move on to this last race. Now, this last race is hey, we have 8 whole horses in this race, so this is exciting. But it's gonna be a mile on the turf, the Widener turf. The Sands Point, grade 2 for fillies, 3-year-old fillies. I'm trying to check again. I don't think it points if this is a win and you're in, but yeah, this is a pretty interesting race. This is we got Selflessly, who we did kind of briefly mention earlier, shows up in here, and I think is probably gonna go off in the favorite. Yeah, 2-1.
Can we mention David Cohen won a G3 on a Chad Brown horse on Selflessly? It's got to be like the world's fastest horse, right?
14-1.
To be fair, that horse ran a really big stinker in the Wonder again.
That is true. I didn't like this horse in Lake George.
I may have been slightly biased to the jock, but yeah, I mean, selflessly is we've talked about this horse quite a bit, and it is arguably one of the better 3-year-old fillies in training, if not the best. Off from that last race, she makes a ton of sense in here. She's probably your most likely winner. She's going to be a lot shorter than 2-1, I would imagine, and it would be no shock if she wins. And I think she has to be on basically every ticket as an A. I have a hard time really getting away from her, as I would expect her to kind of improve from here going forward. And the other horse I really liked in here was the 5, Miss J. McKay, who is going to be a very forwardly placed speed type. You're going to have, from a pace dynamic, Pure Wow is the speed of the speed in here, but I don't. Pure Wow has this. Pure Wow really wants to run about 6.5 furlongs and then stops, and that's been the game the last few races. We're getting tougher race here. If Terra Nova had a second here, I would assume this was a rabbit, but I just don't think Pure Wow can give the distance, and I think it really sets somebody like Miss J. McKay up who can sit that stalking trip, has that target, and with Johnny V can get kind of that really nicely sorted out ride. Again, this is one I don't know. We haven't seen her go this far, so have to see if she can get the distance. But from pace dynamic setup, I think this should fall right in her lap. And if she can get the distance, I think she maybe gets a little lost on the board in here and is pretty interesting. But I ended up on the 3 and the 5, and don't know how you guys were seeing it.
Well, I know you made fun of me before for not taking the speed horse. So my top pick in this race is the speed horse, or at least one of them, the 5, Miss J. McKay. Yeah, that's going to be my top pick in this race. Love this horse stretching out. You get Johnny V aboard. I mean, if you look at the buyers, this horse is fastest by about 5 points. Now it is sprinting, so can the horse stretch out? I mean, I guess we'll have to see. But Lemon Drop Kid on top, I mean, would tell you that I think that the distance shouldn't be an issue. So I'm gonna go back to I'm gonna kind of go with the sprinter here, stretching out a little bit on the front end, the 5, and then I guess I'm gonna use Selflessly as my B, and kind of just stick with those 2 horses. I'm sure that this French Chad is just gonna completely fuck me though. But what do you think, Caleb?
Yeah. So I probably did end up on the French Chad as my top pick here. I didn't really know where to go in this race. It was kind of hard. It wasn't like I liked a bunch of horses, but rather that I really didn't like a bunch of horses. I get what y'all are saying about this 5 horse likely being the speed of speed on the stretch out. I will probably think the 7 actually makes the lead, even though she's more of a router. I just think that as a function of tactics, that 7 has one way to go. Velasquez on the 5 is not an aggressive jockey. I don't think he's going to send that horse. She'll be up there, but I don't think she'll be on the lead. That being said, coming back to the 1, the French Chad Brown horse, Tama here, I don't really know what to do with all the United States horses, but no one really impressed me, so I kind of wanted to take the new shooter. I don't know too much about the track that she was running at in France in her last 2 starts, the La Teste de Bouc, I guess. My French is not fluent, so bear with me. But regardless, that's not a track I know. I know Deauville, I know Chantilly, I know the other big French tracks. This is not one that I know, which tends to make me think it's probably more like a B or C tier track over there in France. But it is a Chad Brown, first time United States horse, adds Lasix here, and you get Irad. So it is a horse that I like. I have, like I said earlier, I haven't looked at thoroughgraphs or anything else yet, but when I don't have access to any other international data, about the one number I do use to sort of gauge a horse's performance is the Brisnet race rating and class rating. And this horse has a 122 class rating last out, which is significantly higher than what anyone else in this field has ran. Class rating being basically a performance indicator on Brisnet. So I do think that this horse is at least a contender. The other horses I was interested in was the 2, Speak to Me of Summer. I've already talked about, the connections here. Rosario and Clement are obviously very strong. This horse won the Lake Placid at Saratoga back when the Clement barn pretty much couldn't lose a race, and then came back in the Saratoga Oaks and ended up, to me, I just think a mile and 3/16 is probably too far. She just kind of ended up a little bit flat. She was a little bit ranked that race, took up off of heels going into the first turn. I really think that she's better than that last race shows, kind of running against the flow of the race where Antoinette wired a pretty bad field. So to me, I think she'll be better on the cutback here. She's 2 for 3 at the mile. Got 3 wins out of 5 starts on the turf here. So I think she makes a lot of sense. And then Selflessly is the horse I wasn't really sure what to do with. Like I don't think she's going to be an A for me, but she probably will be used on my tickets somehow. She's a horse that was really highly regarded as a 2-year-old and then disappointed in the Breeders' Cup and then came up just incredibly flat in the Wonder Again Stakes. Like Josh said earlier, she really ran a stinker. And then got totally dismissed off of that effort when she went out in the Lake George, especially with turf, ace jockey David Cohen. And he pulls off the upset over Sweet Melania at 14-1. So at this point, it has me asking, what is the real Selflessly? Is it this stinker Wonder Again horse or this Breeders' Cup horse that kind of didn't threaten at short prices? Or is it the horse that won the Lake George? And I'm not really sure. I don't want to pay a short price to find out. So I'm not going to leverage this horse heavily, but it is a horse that I don't want to let beat me because she has flashed ability. So those are the 3 horses I'm going to use most heavily. I get the argument on Miss J. McKay. She's an interesting horse here. She actually beat Kamari last out at Kentucky Downs, but I'm just not super sure about her stretching out to a mile here. I'd have liked to have seen her stretch out once before. She also seems to have a case of the hangs a little bit with 5 seconds or thirds in her last 5 starts. Just hasn't seemed to have that killer instinct lately. So she's a horse that could win, but that I'll probably be inclined to let beat me. But yeah, it's a fun race here. I'm not impressed with any of the local starters, so I kind of default to the 1 with a little bit of the 2 and the 3 sprinkled in as well.
So before I go beating up Caleb's pick on the 1 here too much, I will say that I did use the horse as a B. So, I think the horse is super usable and does make some sense in here. But with that being said, we always talk about Chad Brown with all these Euro shipper horses. He's 3 for 37, which is an 8% win and a 79-cent ROI over the last 5 years with 3-year-old foreign shippers on turf. He's 0 for 13 with them in stakes. So it seems like he brings these Euro shippers over as 3-year-olds. The ones he does get that he drops into stakes races don't perform that well. And, we were tossed Le Tesbouche is a sort of second tier, third tier French track. If you look at the second place runner and that last out, Mary's France was 5th in an N1X with an 82 buyer. Horses also in the Chad Brown barn. So she destroyed that field. It was 7.5 lengths. So take what you will of the second place winner. If she's that much better than a horse that came back and ran an 82, she probably destroys this field. But the Chad Brown shippers of these 3-year-olds, I think that horse probably takes a lot more money than is deserving. Just given that, it's Chad, and it's the first in North America, and he's great with these French shippers, and everyone's going to have that in their head. And I probably just talked the horse into the winner's circle, but I think 5-2 is just way too short for where I'd be interested in that horse.
Yeah, it's not often that I'll have my mind be changed, but I'll be the first to admit I haven't done all the homework on that race. And those Chad Brown stats are pretty telling, so that might be some reason to downgrade the 1 here. I think that's a very valid argument on the 1, or against the 1 rather.
I wouldn't go too far. I made the horse a B. I think the horse makes sense. I get where you're coming from. It's just one of those, when you're trying to draw those lines, that's enough to kind of shift that line a little bit.
Yeah, it depends on the price. 4-1, that horse is a bed. 8-5, the horse is a toss. It just kind of depends. Granted, if it's 8-5, it's probably a monster.
If it's 8-5, it's 8-5, and you have it as a B, and you've already eaten all your Bs. Yeah.
Look at Nat's first 2 or 3 starts where she was 85 or 65 cents on the dollar as a 3-year-old from France shipping in the United States and didn't win she's run one race in the States in like 10 starts. So these types, I think people know it. 10 years ago, Chad Brown, first time Euro turfers, you could get prices on. Now you just don't anymore. And they're way over bet.
All right, cool. I think that's gonna do it for us. We only ran 10 minutes over. We added 2 extra races, and we only ran 10 minutes over. I think that was.
Last time we beat a 5-horse field to death or a 4 to 5 horse to death, we were right both times with Monday Call and with whoever that other favorite was. I can't remember on the
Bonnie South.
Bonnie South. Yeah, we were right on both of them. So I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, I thought we did a good job. We got through all those races. Yeah, it looks like Jody was asking about who owns the one. And I said it was Madaket and Swift, and apparently Chad does pretty well for Madaket. Okay. Road Warrior likes the 7, the 2, and the 1 in that order. And John Massey's talking about wine. I don't know. You can read that, Mark. I don't know what he's talking about. I know you're a wine guy.
We're down.
But yeah, that's gonna do it for us. Shout out to the Wolf. Hope he gets better. I know he was in chat for a little bit, but I think he probably had to go watch the little ones. Thank you guys for joining. It was nice to see some new faces in chat. I saw Jody talking a little bit. There was a couple more people earlier in the day. I saw B-Marks pop in for a little bit. As usual, Evil Bob Dole, Road Warrior, Dennis Trusty, all you regulars, thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate it. We'll be in the Discord as usual. Hit us up on Twitter at wrong_lead. We got our Twitter handles here at CalebWVU, at 2_turns, at Cherry Drank. Yeah, we will catch you guys later. And good luck this weekend.